Assignment 2.2 Millie Galloway. There are three types of hypothesis. There's your null hypothesis. This is the hypothesis that is the average, for example, a 50-50 coin flip. A two-tailed hypothesis. A two-tailed hypothesis or non-directional hypothesis predicts an open outcome. Thus, the results can go in two directions. There's the final hypothesis, the one-tailed hypothesis. A one-tailed hypothesis or directional hypothesis predicts the actual direction in which the findings will go. Here are my three hypotheses for our experiment. The cardiovascular response to steady-state exercise. I predict that heart rate will plateau after 3 minutes of steady-state exercise. Respiratory response to steady-state exercise. I predict that breathing rate will plateau after 3 minutes also. Energy systems response to steady-state exercise. I predict that the main system that will be used is the aerobic energy system. This is the method before exercise starts. You're going to apply the heart rate monitor to the performer. You're then going to take the initial measurements, heart rate using the heart rate monitor, breathing rate by observing the chest and counting breaths for 30 seconds, then timesing by 2. Blood lactate levels by using a Primpic and a lactate monitor, and finally O2 saturation using the saturation monitor. A warm-up will then be administered. 5 minutes on the exercise bike will do. Therefore, the muscles being used will be warmed up before the exercise. You're then going to apply the correct resistance in accordance to the performer's weight onto the exercise bike. This is the method during. Every 2 minutes, we take the heart rate. Every 2 minutes on the odds, we take the breathing rate. Every 4 minutes, we take the saturation. Every 5 minutes, we take the RPE and the blood lactate. Here is our method after exercise. Once exercise is finished, the performer must continue to exercise. Then after 5 minutes, you must retest for all of the tests. Energy systems during steady state. During exercise, the production of adenosine triphosphate will rise because the ATP is used. I predict that the performer will mainly use the aerobic energy system because creatine is a finite source. Therefore, the performer will have to use the aerobic energy system. Another indicator of this is that the exercise is submaximal and lasts a duration of 20 minutes. None of the other energy systems can sustain being used for that long. Because exercise is aerobic, this means there is oxygen present, which binds with the pyruvic acid and coenzyme A. This produces acetyl-CoA, which is carried over to the Krebs cycle. Heart rate during steady-state exercise. Heart rate is simply defined as the amount of times your heart beats in a minute. What I believe will happen during steady-state exercise is heart rate will increase rapidly at the start of exercise, then it will plateau. Why I believe this will happen. Initially, heart rate increases rapidly due to the proprioceptors detecting the movement, whilst the chemoreceptors will detect the lack of oxygen. A message is sent to the cardiac control center in the medulla oblongata. A message is then sent down the parasympathetic nervous system to the SA node, where heart rate is increased. Then during steady-state exercise, heart rate plateaus and stops increasing due to the amount of oxygen being delivered meeting the demands of exercise. Therefore, no message will be sent from the chemoreceptors to the CCC and the heart rate will remain at the same level. Stroke volume during steady-state exercise. Stroke volume is simply defined as the amount of blood that is pumped out of the heart per beat. Initially, stroke volume increases due to an increase in the demand for O2. Stroke volume during steady-state exercise will slowly increase due to the increase in venous return and intensity of exercise. Also, the demands of oxygen being met. This leads to the stroke volume plateau. The statement is backed up by J. Anderson, stating that the stroke volume may only increase up to 40 to 60% of the maximum capacity, after which it plateaus. Beyond this, relative exercise intensity stroke volume remains unchanged right up until the point of exhaustion. Cardiac output. Cardiac output is simply defined as the amount of blood pumped out of the heart per minute. Cardiac output increases rapidly at the start due to the demand for oxygen. Cardiac output will continue to increase very slowly due to the venous return and the intensity of exercise. And this meaning the demand for oxygen has been met, leading to the cardiac output beginning to plateau, just like stroke volume. Blood pressure. Blood pressure is defined as the amount of force applied to the walls of the blood vessels. Systolic blood pressure will initially increase due to the high demand for O2. Diastolic will initially decrease due to the vasodilation of the muscles. Once the demands of oxygen have been met, then both systolic and diastolic blood pressure will plateau. Blood flow is the movement of blood through the body. Blood flow increases initially due to the vasodilation of the blood vessels that is stimulated because the demand for oxygen is so high. Once the demand for oxygen has been met, the blood vessels will no longer vasodilate and will vasoconstrict slightly, as less oxygen is needed. Once the correct internal diameter of the blood vessels is met, the blood flow allowed to flow through them will reach a certain point and will then begin to plateau. Blood flow is also redirected away from the vital organs and towards the skin in exercise. Thermoregulation. Thermoregulation is the process that allows your body to maintain its temperature. Thermoregulation works by your internal temperatures changing, and this is being detected by sensors, thermoreceptors, in your central nervous system. This sends a message to the hypothalamus in your brain. Therefore, at the start of exercise, your internal temperatures rise. This is detected by your thermoreceptors, and the message is sent to your hypothalamus, where a new signal is sent to the vital organs and blood vessels. This is where vasodilation can occur, and this would cool down your body. At the start of exercise, I believe that temperature will begin to increase, and this will be detected by the thermoreceptors and cause vasodilation. As exercise continues, your body's blood vessels will have dilated, meaning the body will be cooling itself down and will eventually reach a steady temperature. Venous return. Venous return refers to the blood flow from the body back to the right atrium. Venous return during steady-state exercise would increase at the start of exercise because more blood is required to be pumped around your body due to the demand for a sudden increase in the levels of oxygen. If the athlete is working in an aerobic training zone, then the athlete will eventually get the heart rate and breathing rate high enough to deliver the needed amounts of oxygen. At this point, venous return would plateau. Starling's law. Starling's law is simply defined as a rule that states that stroke volume will increase as the left ventricle volume increases due to stretching of the heart, which causes a more forceful contraction, or put more simply, the greater the filling of the heart, the greater the amount pumped by the heart. Tidal volume. Tidal volume is defined as the amount of air breathed in and out of a normal breath. You can see this on the graph at the bottom of my screen. Tidal volume at the start of exercise will increase due to the demand in oxygen, also due to the stimulation of the additional respiratory muscles such as the sternocleidomastoid. These muscles can make the thoracic cavity larger, which will increase the ideal volume. However, once the tidal volume increases to a certain point where the thoracic cavity is not getting any larger and your body is receiving the appropriate amount of oxygen, therefore the tidal volume will plateau. Breathing rate. Breathing rate is the number of breaths you take a minute, just like heart rate. Breathing rate at the start of exercise increases due to the demand for oxygen at the working muscles. Therefore, the chemoreceptors send a message to the RCC, Respiratory Control Center, which will cause the increase in breathing rate. Breathing rate will rise to a level where the muscles are consistently receiving enough oxygen. Therefore, breathing rate will stop increasing and will start to plateau. Now I will explain the effects of pH and temperature on the oxygen dissociation curve. During sport, temperature increases and there are higher levels of acid, therefore a lower pH. The carbon dioxide produced in the muscles and the hydrogen cause a chemical reaction in the blood. This increases acidity. Therefore, there is a decrease in oxygen at the muscle tissues. There is an increase in dissociation of oxygen from the blood. If you increase temperature and pH, the curve will move to the right. This is called right shift. Vice versa, if you decrease temperature and pH, the curve will move to the left. This is called left shift. Right. Increased pliability of the muscles. Increased pliability of the muscles simply means the increased level of stretch that the muscles can experience. At the start of exercise, the muscles will begin to warm due to them being used. The heat will make the muscles more pliable. Therefore, at the start of exercise, the muscles will become more pliable. Therefore, this allows the muscles to stretch. However, the muscles will reach a point where they will no longer be able to stretch, and the muscle pliability will stop increasing. Muscle spindles and Golgi tendons. Muscle spindles are sensory receptors located within the skeletal muscles. They detect changes in muscle length. This then contributes to fine motor control. They also play a large role in regulating the contraction of muscles. This happens because the muscle spindles activate the motor neurons via the stretch reflex. This resists muscle stretch. When a muscle stretches, the muscle spindle then detects the stretch and sends a message to the spinal cord where secondary sensors show the degree of the stretch and then send this information to the CNS. At the CNS, a message is sent to the motor neuron to cause the contraction to occur and resist the stretch. Golgi tendons detect the tension in tendons whenever movement occurs.